as you probably have noticed. The stock market hit an all-time record high today, over 22,000. We've picked up substantially now more than $4 trillion in net worth in terms of our country, our stocks, our companies. We have a growth rate, a GDP, which has been much higher than, as you know, anybody anticipated, except maybe us. But it's going to go higher too. We're doing a job, and you're going to see jobs are pouring back into the country. Factories and plants are coming back into the country. We're going to start making product in America again, and that's happening all over. As I mentioned yesterday, Foxconn is going to spend $10 billion in Wisconsin and other places, and I think the $10 billion is going to end up being $30 billion. They make the iPhones for Apple and others, and it is a truly incredible company. So we have a lot of things happening that are really great. But again, today, the stock market hit the highest level that it has ever been, and our country is doing very well. I just want to thank you all. Tom and David are going to be outside. They're going to speak to you at length about what we're going to do with respect to this aspect of immigration. I think it's going to be very, very important. The biggest in 50 years, biggest change in 50 years. Thank you all very much. Thanks, Scott.
All right. President Trump mentioned that the Dow is above 22,000. You see that in the bottom corner of your screen. We've never covered that before today until he tweeted the other day that mainstream media doesn't cover the Dow. I don't know what I've been doing for the last 22 years of my career. I never talked about Dow. All right, so here's the thing. The immigration story, we're going to talk to Peter Alexander about that in a second, but that stuff that President Trump just came back to say, we need to put this to rest. He's been saying this all the time, and if anybody who has anything to do with President Trump is watching this, please send him this message. This 2.6% economic growth, it is for one quarter. You can spike growth for a quarter all sorts of times. In fact, do you know how many times during President Obama's 8 years, growth was 2.6% or higher? 14 quarters. 14 quarters.
One more time. Say it again.
14 times during President Obama's administration, growth was 2.6% or higher. 8 times, it was 3% or higher. So Donald Trump just has to get off of this GDP kick. It's just nonsensical, and it's disingenuous. I don't know how many different ways I can say this.
He needs to get off of it to save himself. If he puts himself in a situation, if we budget the U.S., if Mick Mulvaney puts a budget in place assuming that we're going to face 3% GDP, we're not going to. That is a goal, not a baseline. And if you want to disappoint the American people, tell them they're going to get that, because guess what? That's not real life.
And we're going to talk about immigration in 1 second, but another point to make, he talked about we're going to make more product in the United States. It's important to understand we have not stopped making product in 40 years. We've made more product almost every year. We're doing it with fewer workers. That's the legitimate problem, and it's worth talking about, but we don't make more product. We make more stuff with less people. We've not suffered on that front. This Foxconn thing in Wisconsin, I don't know if any of you live in Pennsylvania, but you may remember that there was a promise to build a Foxconn plant in 2013 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Let somebody from Harrisburg tweet me and let me know how that factory's coming along. Foxconn doesn't keep its promises.
We should also point out that the Foxconn plant that is supposed to be built in Wisconsin, the tax breaks that go along with it, and guess what?
$250,000 per employee if they employ all those
tax breaks are assumed. We know that in order for a company to break ground and do something like this, there has to be some level of tax incentives. The tax incentives that have been agreed upon for the Foxconn far outsize anything that's ever been done before in that state. And I want to mention, the president is talking about Foxconn, something that may or may not happen. What is he not talking about? Amazon, who's actually having their job fair, making those hires today. The only time we really hear about Amazon from the president is when he talks about the Washington Post being owned by Amazon, which it isn't, and Amazon not paying their taxes, which they do.
Right. So there we go. Now back to what the first part of that conversation was.
I can't even remember.
Immigration. That's the problem. That's the problem. It was actually an interesting conversation about immigration. They're talking about